Welcome back to Red State Horror. So here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Scientists give up sometimes. Not often. Not publicly. And they never use the word give up. What they do is file a report, and at the bottom of that report, in the field where the conclusion goes, they write a word that, in 20 years of schooling, you are trained never to write. A word that means we looked, we tested, we came back, we looked again, and we genuinely do not know what this is. That word is unknown. Tonight I have 3 cases where that's exactly what got filed. 3 true stories that stumped scientists. The files are still open. 3 locations in the American South. 3 separate teams of researchers, geologists, acoustic scientists, and photographic analysts have years of fieldwork between them. And at the end of all of it, the same conclusion in each case stamped and filed and never revisited. Cause: unknown. I want to be honest with you up front, the way I always try to be on this channel. These aren't ghost stories in the traditional sense. There's no figure jumping out at anyone. There's no voice in the dark telling you to get out. What these 3 cases share is something I find, honestly, a lot harder to sit with than a ghost story. Because it's a ghost story, you can dismiss it. You can tell yourself it's a legend, it's fiction, it's the kind of thing that sounds real but isn't. These are documented. These are measured. These are in files that you can request and read. And they still don't have answers. Red State Horror presents, they filed it as unknown. 3 cases where American scientists officially gave up. Headphones in. The brightness is low. Let's go. Story 1. The sound that shouldn't exist. Van Buren County, Tennessee, first documented in 1979. There's a hollow, that's what they call a small valley in Tennessee, a hollow, about 6 miles north of the town of Spencer, up in the Cumberland Plateau. Steep limestone ridges on 3 sides, a seasonal creek running through the bottom, and second-growth forest covering most of it. From the road, it looks like every other hollow in Van Buren County. Looks like nothing in particular, but people who've spent time there, hunters mostly, and a few hikers who wandered off the Savage Gulf trails, have been reporting the same thing since at least the 1970s. A sound. Not a loud sound. That's the thing people always say first when they try to describe it. It's not loud. It's more like a pressure change. Like when an airplane cabin shifts and your ears pop, except it's constant. A low, steady hum that you feel in your chest before you actually register it as sound. It makes your vision blur slightly if you stand in the wrong spot. It makes some people feel, without any apparent reason, like they urgently need to leave. A hunter named Roy Dillard reported it to the Van Buren County Sheriff in 1979. The sheriff sent a deputy out to look for an industrial source. There was none. No power lines within 2 miles. No machinery. No underground infrastructure of any kind. The report went nowhere. Roy kept hunting the area because the deer were good. And he was stubborn. He reported the sound 2 more times over the next 4 years. Each time, the same response. We'll look into it. Nothing there. Then in 1986, a graduate student from the University of Tennessee named Karen Whitfield came across Roy's 3 reports while doing research on acoustic anomalies in karst terrain. That's the kind of landscape you get when limestone bedrock dissolves over time and leaves hollow spaces underground. The Cumberland Plateau is full of it. Mammoth Cave is the most famous example. Karen drove out to the hollow with a field recorder and spent 3 days there. She found the sound on the 2nd afternoon. I've read her field notes. She wrote, and I want to read this to you exactly, because the language matters. Consistent subsurface emission confirmed at grid reference B7. Fundamental frequency measured at 0.31 Hz. Amplitude inconsistent with known geological sources at this depth estimate. The source location triangulated to approximately 40 meters below the surface at the hollow's north wall. Recommend a full geophysical survey. Note: standing at grid B7 for longer than approximately 4 minutes produces measurable nausea and mild visual disturbance in this observer. Cause of physiological effect: unknown. She submitted the field notes along with her recommendation for a full geophysical survey to her thesis advisor. The survey was approved. A 4-person team came out in the spring of 1987. They drilled 3 test cores into the limestone at the north wall of the hollow. The first 2 came back normal. Just rock. Just the expected stratigraphy of the plateau. The 3rd core, at 41 meters, hit a cavity. A large one. The drill dropped 6 inches when it broke through, which means the ceiling of the cavity was thin. The acoustic sensor they lowered into the core hole measured the emission directly from inside. And here's where things got strange, even for a team of scientists who had been expecting strange. The frequency coming from inside the cavity was not constant. It varied. Slowly, over a cycle of about 40 minutes, it shifted, not randomly, but in a pattern. Up slightly. Hold down. Hold. Back up. The pattern repeated exactly across every 40-minute observation window they logged. Karen told me, "We've spoken twice, and she's retired now and very careful with her words, that the team spent 2 weeks trying to find a geological explanation for a patterned, repeating frequency variation in a sealed limestone cavity. There are geological processes that produce infrasound," she told me. Fluid movement, pressure differentials, seismic microactivity. We tested for all of them. None of them produces a repeating pattern with that kind of regularity. A geological process varies. This didn't vary. It cycled. Same period, same amplitude shift, every 40 minutes, for the entire 2 weeks we were on site. The team's final report was submitted to the university in late 1987. The conclusion section reads, in part, "The acoustic emission from the Van Buren County subsurface cavity represents an anomalous finding for which no satisfactory geological explanation was identified during the survey period. The patterned frequency variation is inconsistent with known passive geological acoustic phenomena. Active geological sources were ruled out. Source and mechanism, undetermined. Recommend continued monitoring. Continued monitoring." That's a scientist for someone else to deal with this. Nobody did. The follow-up funding wasn't approved. The site wasn't monitored. The report went into the university archive, where it sat for 32 years, until a geology PhD student found it while working on a completely unrelated project and sent it to a science journalist, who sent it to me. I asked Karen if she ever went back to the hollow. "Once," she said, "in 2019. Just to see if it was still there." I asked, "Was it?" She didn't answer right away. "The sound was still there," she said. "Same spot. Same feeling when you stand on it too long. I stayed about 10 minutes, and then I left. 32 years. The same spot. The same 40-minute cycle. Cause. Undetermined. Still undetermined." Story 2. The coordinate that breaks every GPS. McIntosh County, Georgia. Documented 1987 to present. McIntosh County sits on the Georgia coast, just south of Darien, right where the Altamaha River fans out into marshland before it hits the Atlantic. It's salt marsh country. Flat, open, beautiful in a way that feels slightly dangerous, like the landscape is reminding you it was here before you and will be here after. Spanish moss. Fiddler crabs. Shrimp boats. The kind of place where the road ends and the water just takes over. In the fall of 1987, a Georgia Department of Natural Resources survey crew was mapping the wetlands in the southern section of McIntosh County for a habitat assessment. Standard work. 4 people, 2 boats, and GPS units, which, in 1987, were military-grade units. Civilian GPS didn't exist yet. At one specific coordinate, I'm going to read it to you. 31 degrees, 18 minutes 22 seconds north, 81 degrees 24 minutes 11 seconds west, all 4 GPS units simultaneously showed the same error. Not the same malfunction. The same error. The same wrong coordinate. All 4 devices placed the survey crew about 3 miles northeast of where they actually were. Every time they crossed back through that specific point, the devices shifted. And then, when they moved away from it, they snapped back to correct. The survey team lead, a woman named Denise Fowler, noted it in her field log as a probable equipment issue and flagged it for follow-up. She'd never seen 4 units fail simultaneously before, but she was practical about it. Equipment fails. She logged the anomalous coordinate, finished the survey, and submitted her report. The follow-up came 6 months later when a different survey crew went into the same area. Different equipment, different people. They hit the same coordinate. Same error, same 3-mile northeast displacement. Every device. At that point, it's not equipment, Denise told me. She's been retired for 8 years and lives in Savannah now. 2 different crews, 2 different sets of hardware, same anomaly at the same coordinate. That's a location problem, not a gear problem. The Georgia DNR referred the anomaly to the National Geodetic Survey, which is the federal agency responsible for the Coordinate Reference System. The NGS sent a technician to investigate in 1989. The technician's report is 4 pages long. I've read all 4 pages. The conclusion on page 4 is the shortest part of the document. No source for the observed GPS displacement anomaly was identified. Magnetic field readings at the coordinate are within the normal range. No subsurface metallic deposits of sufficient size to explain the displacement were detected. No atmospheric explanation was identified. The anomaly at coordinate 31 degrees 18 minutes 22 seconds north, 81 degrees 24 minutes 11 seconds west remains unexplained. Recommend avoidance of the coordinate in precision survey work pending further investigation. Recommend avoidance. In a government technical document, that phrase is remarkable. It means we don't know what's there. We can't explain it, so just go around it. I asked Denise if surveyors still avoid the coordinate. As far as I know, she said, it's in the informal knowledge base. Surveyors working the southern Macintosh wetlands know about it. It gets passed on. New crews get told, at that coordinate, your GPS is going to lie to you. Work around it. I asked, has anyone ever tried to figure out why? Twice that I know of. Both times, they came back with the same answer, which is no answer. The last time was 2004. After that, she paused. I think people just accepted it was going to stay unknown and moved on. You can only investigate something so many times before you decide the investigation isn't going to give you what you want. The coordinate is still there. The marsh is still there. The displacement still happens. Every GPS unit. Every time. 3 miles northeast. Like something at that location in the Georgia marsh doesn't want to be found. Story 3. The figure in the window. Sunflower County, Mississippi, 1961 to 2022. This is the one I want to be most careful with, because it involves living people, and a house that still stands, and a family that's dealing with it right now. I'm going to use first names only. The family asked me to do that, and I'm going to respect it. Sunflower County, Mississippi is Delta country. Flat, rich, agricultural cotton fields, catfish farms, and towns strung along the old highway routes. The kind of landscape where you can see the weather coming from 40 miles away, because there's nothing between you and the horizon. A farmhouse outside the town of Indianola has stood on the same plot since 1923. It's been occupied by 4 different families over that time. It's a working farmhouse. Nothing unusual about it architecturally, nothing that would catch your eye. Except for the photographs. The first photograph was taken in 1961 by a family I'll call the First Family. They were documenting the property, standard practice for insurance purposes, and took a series of exterior shots of the house. In one of those photographs, the photograph of the north-facing window on the 2nd floor, there is a figure. Standing. Looking out. The house was empty when the photographs were taken. The family had not moved in yet. The First Family noted it in a letter to their insurance agent, asking whether it would affect the claim. The agent wrote back that photographs sometimes produced artifacts, reflections, light distortions, that could resemble human forms. The figurine was filed as a photographic artifact. The family moved in. They lived in the house for 11 years. They reported nothing unusual during those 11 years. The second family bought the property in 1974. They were there for 9 years. In 1979, during a family gathering, someone took a photograph of the exterior of the house. When the film was developed, in the north-facing 2nd floor window, the same figure, same position, same posture. The window was confirmed empty at the time of the photograph. The family was entirely accounted for outside at the time. The second family had never seen the 1961 photograph. They didn't know it existed. They moved out in 1983. They told the realtor the house felt wrong sometimes. The realtor listed it and didn't disclose anything. The third family came in 1984. They lasted 4 years. In 1986, they hired a paranormal investigator. This is where the documentation gets interesting. A man from Memphis named Franklin Dubois, who ran a small investigation outfit and kept meticulous records. Franklin photographed every room in the house, set up motion-sensitive cameras in the most reported areas, and spent 6 weekends in the house over 2 months. In the motion-sensitive camera footage from the north-facing 2nd floor room, on 4 separate nights there is a figure, standing at the window, facing out. Franklin submitted the footage to the University of Memphis's Film and Media Department for analysis. The department's conclusion, in writing. The 4 footage segments submitted for analysis do not show evidence of superimposition, double exposure, or other conventional photographic or video artifacts. The figure present in each segment is consistent in position, proportion, and opacity across all 4 recordings. No conventional explanation for the figure's presence was identified. Analysis of the figure itself is inconclusive. Cause of the anomaly. Unknown. University of Memphis. Film and Media Department. Unknown. The third family moved out shortly after. Franklin's report went into his files, and his files eventually went to his daughter when he passed in 2009. And his daughter, a woman named Tanya, is the one who sent me the original documentation, including the 1961 photograph, the 1979 photograph, and the 1986 footage analysis. The fourth family, the family that lives there now, bought the property in 2019. They didn't know any of this. In the spring of 2022, the mother, I'll call her Laura, was taking photographs of the house exterior for a renovation project. When she went through the photos on her phone that evening, she stopped on one of them. North-facing window, second floor. A figure, standing, looking out. She called her husband. He looked at the photograph for a long time. We'd been in the house for 3 years by then, she told me. 3 normal, fine years. Good neighbors. Good land. Nothing weird. And then I'm looking at this photo, and I know for a fact that the room was empty. I was home alone. It's a storage room. Boxes, old furniture. Nobody goes in there. I sent Tanya's package to Laura the next day. The 1961 photograph. The 1979 photograph. The 1986 analysis. Laura called me that evening. I sat with those photographs for about 2 hours, she told me. And I want to tell you something. The figure in my photo and the figure in the 1961 photo are standing in the same place, same window. Same position, same, she paused. I don't know how else to say it. Same presence. Whatever that means. I asked her if the family had any plans to move. She was quiet for a moment. No, she said. It's our home. It's been our home for 3 years, and nothing's ever happened to us in it. Whatever is in that window, it's not doing anything. It's just there. Has been there for 60 years, apparently. So we're just gonna be here too. She paused again. I actually think about it like a neighbor, she said. Like there's somebody in that room that I just haven't formally met yet. That's a weird thing to say, but it's the most honest way I can put it. 4 families, 61 years. 4 photographs, including one taken on a modern smartphone in 2022. University of Memphis analysis. Unknown. The figure in the window is still there. 3 cases. 3 teams of researchers. 3 official conclusions filed with the same word. I think about these 3 cases a lot. Maybe more than any others I've covered on this channel. Because the thing that gets me isn't the mystery itself. Mysteries are everywhere. The world is full of things we don't understand yet. What gets me is the response. Specifically, the moment when people who have dedicated their careers to understanding things look at something and decide with full professional seriousness. We don't know. We can't explain it. File it. Karen stood in that Tennessee hollow for 10 minutes in 2019, feeling the sound move through her chest as it had in 1987, and she left. Denise knows that surveyors in McIntosh County still quietly warn each other about a coordinate that their instruments can't navigate. Laura is living in a house where the same figure has appeared in the same window for longer than she's been alive, and she's decided to think of it as a neighbor she hasn't met. None of them is afraid. Exactly. What they are is carefulness. There's a specific kind of caution that comes from knowing something is there and not knowing what it is. You don't provoke it. You don't pretend it isn't happening. You just go about your life with a new piece of information that doesn't fit anywhere. You already had a place for it. You file it as unknown, and you carry it with you. Which is, I guess, what all of us are doing. If you've got a case like these, something documented, something measured, something where the official conclusion was no conclusion, drop it in the comments. I'm always looking. This is Red State Horror. I'll see you next Thursday.